What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to week 14 of my weekly NFL pick show for the 2014-2015 NFL season. We're into the big time now, folks. It's fantasy football playoff time. We are getting into the home stretch of the season here. The playoff picture is starting to come together. We're going to discuss all that this week, get into the week 13 results before we get into the picks for week 14. Taking a look first at the big three against the spread, I did something that I haven't done in a long time, and that is swept the table on my big three against the spread. Selecting to take those three Thanksgiving games really paid off for me. I got all three of them. Told you to take Detroit -7, Philly +3, and Seattle +1.5 on the Thanksgiving games, and all three of those worked out. 3-0 last week, now 18, 19, and 2 on the big three against the spread this season. I got a great chance to get above 500 or at 500 after this week. Speaking of 500, that's all I went overall against the spread in week 13. I only went 8-8, unfortunately. 94, 95, and 3 against the spread on the season. Taking a look at week 13's platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks, I only went 2-2, so I was only 500 there as well. I got my platinum and my gold. I missed the silver and the bronze picks with some really wonky games. The bronze pick, I told you to take the Giants to beat Jacksonville. That does not work out. Jacksonville beats the Giants 25-24. Jacksonville outscored the Giants 22-3 in the second half. This game was 21-3 at halftime for the Giants. So Jacksonville, big ups to them for coming back, but what is wrong with the Giants? Silver pick, I told you to take Baltimore to beat San Diego. That didn't work out either. San Diego wins that game 34-33, another one-point game. San Diego scores 21 points in the fourth quarter to come back on Baltimore. Not something we're used to seeing from the Ravens and that good defense that they've got there. Hopefully for the Ravens, just a blip on the radar heading towards the playoff push. My gold pick, I correctly told you to take Indianapolis to beat Washington. That worked out very comfortably, 49-27. Despite 3 more turnovers for the Colts this week, which that is an issue going forward. This was just a quarterback battle between Andrew Luck and, surprisingly enough, Colt McCoy. Listen to these numbers. These numbers are ridiculous. The two quarterbacks combined to go 50 of 74, 762 yards, 8 passing touchdowns in this game to just 1 interception. So that is a huge day for both of those quarterbacks. Indianapolis rolls comfortably. And the platinum pick, I told you to take Cincinnati to beat Tampa Bay. That worked out, but barely. A third one-point game in the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks this week. Cincy beats Tampa Bay 14-13. Cincy turned the ball over 3 times, and on the other side of things, Tampa Bay committed, I believe, 13 penalties. The two teams combined for 23 penalties to lose 167 yards. So this is like the second week in a row where the platinum pick ended up being a really sloppy game. Cincinnati, I think their talent was just enough to kind of push them over the top there, so they win 14-13. Platinum pick, I'm 11-2 on the season. Gold pick, I'm 7-6. Silver pick and bronze pick now drop to 8-5. Overall, straight up in week 13, I managed to scrape out a 9-7 straight up record, 119 up, 72 down, and 1 on the season. And in the private pick'em pool, I dropped a couple of spots again. I'm now in 17th place out of 40, 1,008 of 1,522 possible confidence points. That is a clip of only 66%. But in week 13, I did manage to bring in 77 of 136 possible confidence points. That is only a clip of 57%. Shout out to our week 13 winner. Second time he's won a week this season. Demaria _ 12-4 last week. 105 out of 136 possible confidence points. That is a clip of 77%. Very good week for Demaria to win week 13. Fear the Falcon is still our overall leader. 130 up, 61 down, and 1. 1,082 out of 1,522 possible confidence points. That is a clip of 71%. So shout out to Demaria _ for winning week 13 and Fear the Falcon for remaining our overall leader. I'll take this opportunity in the show to remind you that if you go to the description of the video, you're going to be able to find all of my results from week 13, all of my against the spread picks for week 14, instructions on how to join the Bridgewater's finest pick'em pool to try to get yourself a shout out here late in the season, as well as links to other high quality YouTube NFL prognosticators who get on here every week. All right, folks, week 14 picks. Here we go. We're going to get started with the big three against the spread. My number 3 play on the big three against the spread this week comes in the Houston at Jacksonville game. Jacksonville Jacksonville are 5-point dogs at home. I'm going to tell you to take the road favorite here of Houston -5. Yes, Jacksonville did come back and beat the Giants last week by a single point. They had a really good second half. That being said, it's the Giants, and clearly there's something wrong with the Giants. Maybe it's time for Tom Coughlin to go. There's my first question to you guys to answer in the comments section below. Do you think it's time for the New York Giants to finally part ways with Coach Tom Coughlin? Meanwhile, Houston had a very impressive 45-21 victory last week over Tennessee. I told you to take Tennessee in that game. I thought maybe the Titans were due. Lesson learned, never bet on the Titans. But as I said, I really like Houston -5 in this game. I think Houston's defense is good enough that it's going to be able to hold Jacksonville at bay. Will they have another performance like last week? Probably not, they being Houston. But really, to beat Jacksonville by 5 points, they don't need to have a performance like they had last week. They just have to show up and play their game. I think they're going to do that. Houston -5 at Jacksonville is my number 3 play on the Big 3 against the spread this week. My number 2 play on the Big 3 against the spread this week comes in the New England at San Diego game, which I personally think is going to be the game of the week. San Diego are 3.5-point dogs at home, and for a second pick in a row, I'm going to tell you to take the road favorite, New England -3.5. Now, I bounced back and forth on this game because San Diego's played very well at home this season. I believe they're 5-1, whereas the Pats are only 3-3. But I took a look at that game last week, the New England at Green Bay game. Such a good game. Just quarterback play, defense, everything. Such a good game from both of these teams. I don't think New England's going to skip a beat here after that game. Yeah, they lost, but a loss is going to make this team really hungry, and I don't see the team playing the way they are right now, losing 2 games in a row. Yes, they have to cross the country, and yes, San Diego has played very well at home this year, but I'm going to tell you to take New England -3.5 at San Diego as my number 2 play on the Big 3 against the spread this week. And my top play on the Big 3 against the spread this week comes in the Indianapolis at Cleveland game. Indianapolis is favored by 4 on the road. As we mentioned last week, Indianapolis had that big win against Washington by, I believe it was a 3-possession game. Cleveland, on the other hand, got pretty beat up by Buffalo last week, dropping that game 26-10 to the Bills, and it made Kyle Orton look like a pretty good quarterback. They're stepping up here against arguably one of the MVP candidates in the league this year in Andrew Luck. Yes, he struggled the last couple of weeks with fumbles and throwing a couple of interceptions, and yes, Indianapolis's defense has looked suspect, giving up 27 points to Washington last week. They have a little bit of trouble with the vertical game. They got to kind of tighten that up heading towards the playoffs. I don't think they're going to have any trouble here, especially given that we don't really know who's going to play quarterback for Cleveland. A lot of fantasy experts are saying, pick up Johnny Manziel, pick up Johnny Manziel. He's going to be a top 10 quarterback in Week 14. But now apparently an NFL.com report says that Cleveland's going to start Hoyer. That's too much uncertainty for me. I'm going to tell you to take Indianapolis -4 at Cleveland as my top play on the Big 3 against the spread this week. Now let's take a look at the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze picks for Week 14 in the NFL. We're going to start, as always, with the bronze pick, which is 8-5 this year. My bronze pick for Week 14 comes in the Dallas at Chicago game. Now, a lot of people are calling this could be a trap game. This could be an upset, everything like that. I don't see anything in Chicago's game, especially at home, that tells me that they're going to beat an undefeated road team. Dallas 5-0 on the road this year. Do I think they're going to go undefeated? No. I think they lose in Philly next week, probably. So, I don't think they're going to go undefeated on the road this year. Could they go 7-1? Absolutely. And I think if they beat Chicago this week, they're going to go 7-1 on the road this year, which is a huge accomplishment on the road. I think Dallas beats Chicago simply because Chicago doesn't play as well at home. They've really struggled at home this year. They played a little bit better. They beat Minnesota at home. They beat Tampa Bay at home. But Chicago's a team that should beat Minnesota and Tampa Bay. So do I give them credit for that, or do I say, yeah, you did your job. You did what you're supposed to do? For the bronze pick, I'm going to tell you to take Dallas to beat Chicago in Chicago. My silver pick, where I am 8-5 this year, sees the Atlanta Falcons travel north to Lambeau Field to play the Packers. Big ups to the Atlanta Falcons last week for knocking off Arizona 29-18. Nobody saw that coming. Arizona considered to be one of the elite teams in the league. But when you look at it, a lot of that is because of how well they play at home. But Atlanta put it on them, man. They had a great game last week. Big ups to the Falcons. Not going to happen this week. Atlanta traveling to Green Bay. I'm taking the Packers all the way here for the silver pick. Green Bay, different beast at home. Lambeau Field, different beast in and of itself. The frozen tundra, I'm not 100% sure what the weather's supposed to be like, but you know it's going to be cold, and I don't think Atlanta is going to hold up all that well to that. Green Bay, they got the Lambeau faithful behind them. I just like the Packers here all day. Aaron Rodgers is on a tear right now and plays like a maniac at home. So that's what I'm going to take. Silver pick, I'm going to tell you to take Green Bay to beat Atlanta in Green Bay. Gold pick, which is finally above 500 this season, 7-6, thank God, sees the San Francisco 49ers take the very short trip to Oakland to play the Raiders. San Francisco, as we mentioned, dropped a crucial game in the NFC West to rival Seattle 19-3 last week, whereas the Raiders got embarrassed. Utterly embarrassed against St. Louis last week, losing 52-0, where all season the Raiders offense has been able to kind of not necessarily keep them in games, but at least keep them in games from an against the spread perspective. There was no spread big enough for this game, except St. Louis minus 53. The way I look at it, you might need a spread that big for this game as well. San Francisco has played quite well on the road this year. This is barely a road game. They stay in the same state. So barely a road game for the Niners, but I really think the Niners are going to roll here. Oakland has nothing to play for anymore. They really don't. They got their one win. Now Jacksonville's got 2 wins, so they're still kind of right there for the first overall pick. It looks like they're going to be able to get Latavius Murray back this week, which will be a boon to their run games. Since he had that huge game and appears to be one of the real it boys for the fantasy playoffs anyways. I don't see any reason why Oakland wins this game. I think in pretty much every measurable way, San Francisco is a better team. Quarterback might be a little bit debatable, but that's only because I'm such a hater against Colin Kaepernick this season, I guess. I'm going to take San Francisco to beat the Raiders in Oakland, and that's the gold pick. And my platinum pick, where I am 11-2 this year, sees the Buffalo Bills travel to Denver to play the Broncos. Broncos certainly not as untouchable this season as they have been in seasons past. That being said, they did have a real good performance last week, knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs 29-16. Pretty big step up in competition here for the Bills, and a fairly significant step down in competition for the Broncos. And that is something that I worried about, because the Broncos do have this way of playing down to opponents. So it is something that you got to kind of watch out for. That being said, Denver's unbeaten at home this year. They've played really well at home. They've got their team mostly healthy, except, of course, at the running back position, but it seems like that Broncos team can just interchange running backs, and it doesn't really matter because Peyton Manning's got 19 passing targets that he's got to get work to. So hopefully they get Julius Thomas back this week. I think Denver rolls in this game. Buffalo's got a good defense. There's a chance that they might pick Peyton off a time or two, but I think that team's got enough talent that it just propels them over the top. For the platinum pick, I'm going to tell you to take Denver at home to beat Buffalo. Now it's time for the rest of my straight-up picks for Week 14 in the NFL. If I'm going to make a move here, the time is now. Here they come. That's the Week 14 show for you folks. Comments, hate, and love, you know where they go. Comment section below. It's time for the comment of the week. Now, last week, you remember, Jackie Boy, NFL Statsman on Twitter, had the comment of the week. A very long and lengthy comment of the week. We've never had a back-to-back comment of the week winner on my show. That has now changed. Jackie Boy is just killing it in the comments section. He gets the comment of the week for the second week in a row. Now, I asked you in the video last week if the Odell Beckham Jr. catch was the greatest catch in the history of the NFL. Jackie Boy had this to say. Re the Beckham Jr. catch. You got to give Eli some love when it comes to the greatest catches of all time. Without Eli overthrowing Beckham Jr. and David Tyree, neither of those plays would have been as amazing as they were. You're 1,000,000% right on that one, Jackie, and for the second week in a row, you get the comment of the week. That's the Week 14 show for you, folks. Thank you very much for watching. Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter. We hope you're in the fantasy football playoffs. We hope you're paying attention to the playoff picture. We hope your favorite team is right in the mix there to get into the playoffs this year. We'll see you again for Week 15.